Some decisions change the course of history, but the ones that almost happen, those might be even more powerful. Tom Brady thought he knew exactly where his career was heading in March 2020. Straight to Tampa Bay and another Super Bowl ring. What he didn't know was that 72 hours earlier, he'd been minutes away from signing with a completely different team. A phone call at 11:47 p.m. would change everything, involving a secret from his past that even his wife didn't know about. This is the story of the trade that almost happened, the promise that stopped it, and the reason Tom Brady's legacy took a completely different path than anyone imagined. The fluorescent lights of Gillette Stadium flickered as Tom Brady cleaned out his locker for what he thought might be the last time. 20 years, 6 Super Bowl rings, a dynasty that seemed unbreakable. But dynasties, like all great things, eventually come to an end. Or so he thought. His phone buzzed against the metal locker. Coach Reid's name flashed on the screen. Andy Reid from Kansas City. A call he'd been expecting but dreading at the same time. "Tom, we need to talk." Reid's voice was urgent, cutting through the stadium's eerie silence. "In person. Tonight." Brady glanced around the empty locker room, his championship rings catching the harsh light. "Andy, we've been through this. I've made my decision. Tampa's got everything lined up. That's exactly why we need to meet. There's something you don't know about Tampa. Something that changes everything." The urgency in Reid's voice made Brady pause. In all his years in the NFL, he'd learned to trust his instincts about people. And right now, every instinct was screaming that this wasn't just about football contracts or money. Where? Fenway Park. Section 19, Row C. 1 hour. The line went dead. Brady stared at his phone, confusion mixing with curiosity. Fenway in March was closed to the public. How Reid planned to get them inside, and why he'd chosen such a strange location, made no sense. But the coach's tone suggested this wasn't a conversation that could wait until morning. 45 minutes later, Brady found himself walking through the eerily quiet corridors of Fenway Park. The security guard who'd let him in claimed to know nothing about any meeting, just that he'd received specific instructions to allow access to Section 19. The ballpark felt haunted in the darkness, shadows dancing across the empty seats. Brady made his way down to Row C, finding Reid already there, staring out at the pitcher's mound. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Reid said without turning around. "All this history, all these moments that changed lives. Andy, what's this about? If you're trying to convince me to sign with Kansas City, I'm trying to save your life." The words hit Brady like a physical blow. He sank into the seat beside Reid, studying the older man's face in the dim security lighting. "What are you talking about?" Reid pulled out a manila folder, his hands trembling slightly. "What I'm about to show you, it's going to change everything you think you know about your career, about why certain things happen the way they did." Inside the folder were photographs, documents, what looked like surveillance reports. Brady's eyes widened as he recognized faces, dates, locations from throughout his career. "Remember 2007? Reid asked quietly. "The perfect season that almost was? That helmet catch by David Tyree that seemed to come out of nowhere." Brady's jaw tightened. How could he forget? 18-1. The most devastating loss of his career. What if I told you it wasn't luck? What if I told you that someone had been working behind the scenes, influencing games, making sure certain outcomes happened? That's insane. You're talking about fixing games, Andy. That's... Look at page 7. Brady flipped through the documents until he found it. A bank transfer record. $5 million. Transferred 3 days before Super Bowl 42. The recipient name made his blood run cold. David Tyree. This can't be real. Keep looking. More documents. More payments. Key players from games throughout Brady's career. The 2006 AFC Championship game, where the Colts came back from 21-3. The 2015 AFC Championship, where the Ravens nearly upset them. Pattern after pattern of suspicious financial activity. Who's behind this? Brady's voice was barely a whisper. Reed was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the empty field. Someone who wanted to control your legacy. Someone who needed you to be great, but not too great. Someone who's been pulling strings from the very beginning. Andy, just tell me. Your father. The words seemed to echo in the empty stadium. Brady felt the world tilt around him, like the moment after taking a devastating hit when everything goes quiet and strange. That's impossible. My dad supported me through. Your biological father, Tom. Brady's hands went numb. The folder slipped from his lap, documents scattering across the concrete floor. What are you talking about? Tom Sr. raised me. He's my father. Reed's expression was pained as he gathered the scattered papers. Tom Sr. is your father in every way that matters. But biologically, he pulled out another document, this one older, more worn. Robert Kraft isn't just the owner of the Patriots, Tom. He's your biological father. The revelation hit Brady like a blindside sack. His vision blurred, and he gripped the armrest of his seat to keep from falling. That's why you were drafted by New England in the 6th round despite your talent. That's why Belichick took a chance on you. That's why certain games throughout your career had interventions when things got too easy or too hard. You're saying Kraft my own. Brady couldn't finish the sentence. He wanted you to succeed, but he also wanted to control the narrative. Make sure your story had the right amount of struggle, the right amount of triumph. He's been orchestrating your career from the shadows. Brady stood up abruptly, pacing between the rows of seats. His mind raced through decades of memories, looking for signs he'd missed. The way Kraft had always treated him with special attention. The mysterious lucky breaks that seemed to come at just the right moments. The devastating losses that pushed him to greater heights. Why are you telling me this now? Reed stood as well, his face grave. Because he's planning something big for Tampa Bay. Something that ends your career on his terms, not yours. The Buccaneers' ownership has ties to Kraft's business empire. This whole leaving New England narrative, it's scripted, Tom. And the ending he has planned. What ending? A career-ending injury in your second season there. Something that looks accidental, but ensures you retire as a tragic hero rather than an aging quarterback who stayed too long. The implications crashed over Brady in waves. Everything he'd accomplished, every victory, every setback. Had any of it been real? Had his entire career been an elaborate performance? There's more, Reed continued, his voice barely audible now. Your mother's illness 2 years ago. The treatments that saved her life? Kraft arranged those too. He's been using your family as leverage to keep you compliant. Brady's phone buzzed. A text from his wife Giselle. How did the stadium visit go? Ready for our new adventure in Tampa. Staring at the message, Brady realized the full scope of the web that had been woven around his life. Even Giselle's career moves, their decision to leave Boston. How much of it had been influenced by forces he couldn't see? What do you want me to do? Brady asked, his voice hollow. Reed pulled out another set of documents. Come to Kansas City. We've been investigating this for months. The FBI is involved now. They need you to wear a wire. Get Kraft to admit what he's been doing. It's the only way to expose this and protect other players who might be caught in similar situations. And if I don't, then you go to Tampa Bay, play the role that's been written for you, and probably end your career in a hospital bed, never knowing if any of your achievements were truly your own. Brady looked out at the empty baseball field, thinking about all the genuine moments of triumph and defeat that had happened in this very place. Real victories, real losses, real human emotion. everything his football career apparently wasn't. I need time to think. Tom, we don't have time. The Tampa Bay signing is tomorrow. Once you sign that contract, you're locked into Kraft's final act. Brady's phone rang. The caller ID showed Dad. Tom Sr., the man who'd raised him, supported him, been there for every game since high school. I have to take this, Brady said, stepping away from Reed. Tommy, his father's voice was warm, familiar, real. Just wanted to call and say how proud your mother and I are. This Tampa Bay thing, it's a new chapter. You deserve to write your own story. Your own story. The words hit Brady with unexpected force. Dad, Brady said quietly, do you remember what you told me before my first NFL start? Tom Sr. chuckled. That football is just a game, but character is forever. Why? I think I'm about to find out what kind of character I really have. After hanging up, Brady turned back to Reed. If I do this, if I help you expose Kraft, what happens to my career? My legacy? That depends, Reed said. What legacy do you want? The one someone else wrote for you, or the one you earn from this moment forward? Brady looked at the contract Reed was offering, Kansas City Chiefs, 2 years, with a secret provision that would make him a federal witness against corruption in professional sports. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo from his son Jack at a youth football practice, holding up a trophy with a huge grin. The caption read, "Following in Dad's footsteps." In that moment, Brady realized this wasn't just about his own career anymore. It was about the integrity of the sport his children would inherit, about whether future generations of players would compete on a level playing field or be pawns in someone else's game. He picked up a pen. Where do I sign? But as he prepared to put pen to paper, his phone rang one final time. The caller ID made his blood freeze. Robert Kraft. Tom. Kraft's voice was cold, different from the fatherly tone he usually used. I think it's time we had a conversation about your real family and about what happens to people who don't appreciate everything I've done for them. Reed grabbed Brady's arm, shaking his head urgently. If Kraft knew they were meeting, if he suspected what they'd discovered. Fenway Park, Section 19, Kraft continued. I think you'll find the view quite enlightening. The line went dead. In the distance, Brady could hear footsteps echoing through the stadium corridors. Multiple sets of footsteps, moving with purpose. Reed was already gathering the documents, his face pale. We need to go. Now. But as they reached the end of the row, stadium lights blazed to life, illuminating the entire ballpark. Over the PA system, Kraft's voice boomed across the empty seats. Hello, son. I think it's time you learned the rest of the story. What Brady would discover in the next hour would make everything they'd already revealed seem like a warm-up. Because the truth about his parentage, his career, and the web of control that had been woven around his life was far more complex and dangerous than either he or Reed had imagined. And the choice he made in those moments would determine not just his own fate, but the future of professional sports itself. The game was about to change forever. The question was, who would be left standing when the final whistle blew?